So let's invite Johnatan from Pipa Studios, who actually will talk about his view and his challenges he saw in his journey, and actually how he was overlooking that, and how actually everyone who is thinking about working for a mobile gaming company or like founding the mobile company, he should really look at those challenges and how to work with them. Johnatan, stage is yours.
Excellent. Thank you, Mariusz. So first of all, let me introduce myself and my company. I am the founder of Pipa Studios, and I'm very lucky, and I think we are all very lucky to work with gaming, which is something amazing, and which is something that has a bright future. And I've been working since 2003. That's a long way to go. I started working with a web gaming platform at that time, at the, let's say, at the mid stages of internet. I am originally a developer, so I have a technical background that became CEO. We launched the studio in 2012, and our target was especially Brazil and Latin America, and our product was bingo games. So this is something that we have been working before, not in the social space, not in the mobile space, and then we entered the mobile and social space in 2012. It was a very quick journey for us to become the main game in Brazil for bingo players, and then we start expanding to other countries and other geographies as well. Well, we had a very bootstrapped beginning. We started only with 3 people, 2 developers and 1 artist, and nowadays we are 80 people. So, well, a part of being blessed to work with gaming, which is something that we all are, I want to share with you some of my experience in building this company, things that I learned doing, things that I learned by mistakes, and some things that we also learned with others. So let's begin with the journey. I will talk about these 5 topics. Okay, first of all, my perspective as a founder, and which are the main challenges of starting and running a company, how I see the gaming industry nowadays, and why this is important for you guys that are thinking about working in a gaming company or starting a gaming company, things that I believe that are deal makers that you should really take care and pay attention to them, and things that I believe that can hurt you if you don't pay attention to them, which I call the deal breakers. And then in the end, we're going to talk about, for me, the most important topic of this conversation, about people and the challenges that we have in the gaming space and for any startup company. Well, so everything begins with the founders. You may want to be a single founder, or you have a team of founders, but it's all about you in the beginning. So it's kind of, you have to take care and to take responsibility of every aspect in the beginning. And starting a company is a very emotional journey, and it will require from you lots of strength and lots of focus and especially emotional strength. But never forget that we are doing something that we love, and this is something very precious in our life. It's a very intense journey. I mean, it is sometimes frustrating, but it's mostly rewarding, and the rewards come in many ways, right? Not only of achieving success, but you see a lot of people playing your game. You see they are emotionally connected to your game as well. You build up a team, you build up a company. It's a very intense journey. So things that I think that are extremely important from an emotional perspective, an emotional competence for the founder or for the founders, persistence. I think this is the number one. You have to be persistent about what your dreams are, about what your desires are when you start a company. But never forget that persistent doesn't mean stubbornness. So be open-minded as well. Be open-minded for change. Accept that some things will fail in the way. And also listen, be open to listen to your people and to the players. Then definitely resilience. You will we will go through a very emotional journey, as I mentioned to you. And there will be bad days, there will be good days. So I think it's very important for you to start developing this kind of thick skin. That's the way I call here. You have many ways to prepare for this, and this is something you should always have in your notebook. And finally, starting a company is a lot about being creative, because you find many problems in the way, and your job is to find ways out of those problems, right? So creativity is really important in starting up a company. Well, a few things about how I see the gaming landscape these days. So the industry as a whole is thriving like never before. If you follow the public companies, you've seen that their multiples have increased. I think finally there's a lot of recognition in Wall Street and financial world about the gaming companies, also in venture capital. So I think this is a very nice timing to go into gaming or to invest your career, to invest your life into gaming. At the same time, the barriers to entry have increased as well. So you can still have the dream of starting by yourself or just a few people and be successful. This is still valid, but you have players with deep pockets, lots of investments also going into gaming and producing content these days. So the industry is really, making this transition, but we are in a stage that both things are still valid. So you can start your company and be very successful competing with these big guys. Well, this is the way I see the industry is, let's say, splitting today, right? So you have pretty much like in the movie or TV industry. I think this is how the gaming industry is converging. So you have people and companies which are creating content, right, which are responsible for the creative aspect, and you have people responsible for publishing, which are basically responsible for acquisition and retention and all the economic metrics of the game. Well, publishing, it's overall it's a data business. And you have to be very good at data. You have to be very proficient at data. If you're a publishing only business, or if you look at a publish only business, usually they wrap up lots of different contents, different games, right? And they try to market them. So for them, it's a very high diversification and a lower risk for them, because they have multiple content and they can afford to have a few failures. If you look at content, of course, it's a content business, and creativity is the key here. And as probably most of us, we will start with a single title and then move on. But the single title is extremely important in the beginning. So we are kind of concentrating everything into one content. So our risks as a content provider is higher. In our case, in Pipa, we did both. So we created the content, and we also published, and we managed the acquisition streams and the retention and the customer relationship into the same company. So for us, and if that's the case for you too, you have to look at creativity and data as your key elements for success. And you really cannot afford to be less than excellent at them if you want to succeed. Well, the hard truth with content is that you have tons of lots of content and new games these days. You just go to the App Store, or you go to Google Play, you go to Steam, you go to any platforms, you see there immense amount of content, and there's a very high concentration of revenue in a few titles, right? And most titles will fail, and the other number, and a very large number of titles will kind of come to break even, but very hardly achieve that success. So this is the game you're entering when you're entering with content. It's a very risky, high reward game, and this is something that you have to face, right? And this is why it's very important that we try to do everything right from beginning. So things that I would consider if you guys are thinking about starting a company or going forward with launching a new game. So nowadays, as I mentioned before, you have deep pocket guys coming into the gaming space. So you have big budgets and small budgets. So I would consider that in another perspective, talking about content, then you have those games that are really mainstream, that have a very large player base, right? They can appeal for a large audience, and then you have this very niche specific games. I consider that in our history we entered a niche space, right? Because we entered with a bingo game in Brazil, right? And this is where we started, and this is where we took strength to develop into other genres and to develop into other geographies. So what I consider you to do is to kind of follow this blue line, right? Consider your budget, consider your capabilities, and consider which kind of audience you want to attack. So I would say the smaller the budget, the more niche like your audience should be in order for you to achieve success. Of course, you can have a small budget and be mainstream. That's still the case, but then you just increase your risk of achieving success, right? And let's talk about the deal makers, things that will help you to get there. First of all, this is something that every founder has to understand, which is the lifetime value and the cost per acquisition, LTV and CPI game, right? For those of you that are not familiar with this term, so the lifetime value is just a measure of how much value, of how much money, basically, you can make or you're expected to make from a new player, from a new install. And the cost per install is just how much you pay on average for that install, right? So if you plot that on time, what you can expect from a cost per install perspective, that it's gonna start somewhere, let's say around, it's very specific, but let's say somewhere around 50 cents of a dollar to $20 or something like this. But it already starts at some point high, right? Medium from high. And then as you progress with your game, it's very normally expected that your CPI will also increase. And I'm only taking CPI here, and I could also take into account not only the cost to acquire that player, for the player to install your game, but also the cost to retain that player, right? So you do many things to retain that player, but let's just stick with CPI for a while. And what you should expect from a lifetime value perspective is that in the beginning, it's going to be very, very close to zero, right? Until you can kind of understand what your LTV is. And at some point, your LTV has to become higher than your cost per acquisition, right? And this is where you start making money marginally by every install, right? And this is really what you should expect. Your LTV will start from a lower base, but it has to progress, and eventually it has to overreach your cost per install, right? And at this inflection point, where they meet, where this both numbers meet, this is where you should concentrate the most of your acquisition budget, because this is where you start having a return on every install, right? So anything below that range, you should consider kind of, just the ramp up revenue that you need for your game to start having players and to start having traction. Well, going for content now. So the holy grail and what if I would say, give me just one thing that we should take care when you create a gaming company. That thing is player loyalty, right? So I'd say really think about investing in community building from day one, even before you have the game, or just test your ideas, test your, I don't know, screenshots, test your art, whatever. And from the day you can launch, also listen to your player base, listen to their feedback. Okay, it's hard to listen. It looks like it's an easy thing to do, but it's very hard to listen because you listen to many things. But then in the end, you're gonna you're gonna start making some sense about the feedback that the players give you, right? When you're thinking about content. This is my choice of content when I think about gaming, but I think really about making the game into a franchising type of game. What do I mean by that? Try to create a game that will engage the player or your player base for as long as you can, right? We, in the gaming space, we have many ways to approach when it comes to content. You can create extremely casual games, right? Or you can create very hardcore tech and art intensive type of games. But you should always have this idea that it's very important for you that the player engage with your game and stay engaged for as long as you can, because the effects that you have on the lifetime value are immense. And then it makes all the difference in terms of this game working out for you or not. So think again, and think when you think about the game, try to make its content really last for very long and give the support that it needs to get there, right? Just thinking about movies, and I like to do this parallel, but aim for something like Star Wars. Of course, Star Wars is a mega production, but then you have also small franchises that are not mega productions. But think about something that can last and that can engage for a very long time, right? Again, playing game is an emotional kind of relation. So the player has an emotional relation to the game. Once it has played and it's attached to the game, it's very likely that if you provide good content, they will attach and keep attaching in the future. Now, going into the implementation of your company, always choose your partners wisely, right? Especially in the beginning, because you need very good partners. You need business partners. You need good business partners. So those are the people that you can count on especially on the hard times and on the hard decisions. You have to have good coworkers, people that also will not only help you, but kind of take you to your best, right? And also take care of your providers, depending on how much you want to outsource. But the industry now is very complex in that sense, and you have very good providers. It's very important that if you go this way, you find good providers as well. So now the things that you should look at, so you don't kill your potential. What I consider the deal breakers. Now again, let's get back to the marketing plan. So what I would consider a bad marketing plan is a wrong timing, right? So a wrong spending timing. Usually it's too early, too fast. It also might be too late, right? Or too slow. But usually it's too early, too fast. So consider those your LTV and your cost per acquisition, which are very measurable, right? I'm not going into details about how to build an LTV models, and I believe there will be sooner another session here about acquisition, and probably it's going to be discussed in more detail. But you should understand that the very right time for you to really ramp up your investment is when your LTV is higher than a CPI. Anything before that, it's kind of you should still be working on your core engine, on your game, on your stability, and on everything, on your community building, so you can reach that. And again, if you're doing the marketing and acquisition by yourself or with a partner, anyway, you should always really be very, very concerned about maximizing your ROI on any dollar that you invest. This is totally important. This is precious, and this is absolutely fundamental for you to be successful. Now, the other thing with the marketing plan, what you can expect, again, over time, is that in the beginning, you're going to spend a lot of money into acquisition, so new players, right? And eventually, as your game, let's say, gets mature, then you're gonna be spending more of your resources into retention, right? And this is something that is very, very expectable, and you should do it this way. So have this in mind as you start as well. By the way, you should already be thinking about retention even before you launch, right? This is something that can be overlooked by game designers as well and by game companies, right? So they think about a lot about new players and the experience of new players, but your monetization will come from your retained players. So think about retention from day one. Going back to the product and creative aspect of starting a company, I call love without criticism, right? So of course you love your games, and we all love our games, right? And I think when you're thinking and conceptualizing your game, you and your team always should fall in love, like for your decisions, for your characters, for your gameplay, for your for your script, for your history, but always be critical and open for criticism, right? So this is something that has to be worked with your team, and be critical, especially in the sense that what the player might show you later on, or even before that this decision that you made at some point in time is not the best decision. There's another way to go. So always validate your premises and A/B test everything that you can, but especially your core variables, right? Because you're gonna have to make a lot of decisions game-wise and content-wise. So always A/B test. And nowadays there are plenty of tools and ways of doing very good and very reliable A/B testing. Now going to talk about the technology, right? So don't let your tech stack break you, right? So when you choose your tech stack and you have to make the decisions, have in mind or aim for 10 years, right? So try to get the technologies that will be very strong in 10 years, or just the ones that you believe that will be strong in 10 years. Because this is a very reasonable, let's say, life cycle for a technology and also for a game. And in the beginning, try to keep your stack as small as possible, right? Eventually, you have to extend your stack and add new technologies, or add new APIs, or add new, different kind of architectures and infrastructure. But in the beginning, I would say, try to keep your stack small, right? This is very important for you as a kind of bootstrapping strategy for a small company. Now, and to end my talk here, let's talk about people, which I consider nowadays is the greatest challenge of all, not only for gaming companies, but for any company, especially in the tech online space. So what has changed, or what has accelerated? Which kind of changes have accelerated lately? We are living now in this COVID and hopefully very soon post-COVID world, right? And remote work nowadays, it's very debatable, but it's kind of looking the new normal, right? I think it's still soon to just to say that and write in stone, but definitely remote work will be has come to stay, and this is the future. And finally, competition for talent in the tech online space has reached really like a point of no return, and it's really getting crazy out there, right? So nowadays, if you work if you are a developer, if you are an artist, if you are a content creator, if you're a writer, if you work in acquisition or data, you basically can work anywhere, right? You can work for a whole range of companies anywhere in the world. So kind of the salaries and the compensation aspects have changed a lot as well. So it's very, very difficult. I think this is the biggest challenge for any company nowadays in the tech online space and also in the game space, which is retaining, not only getting talent, but also retaining talent. So a few things about just what is important really for someone, what is into the bucket when someone thinks about working for a company, a particular company or not. So of course the first thing is money, right? Everyone needs to live, and everyone wants to thrive as well. But then differently from, let's say, maybe a few decades ago, where I think money was the most important thing, nowadays there are other things that also compete with money. And I'd say the second thing is lifestyle, right? So everyone wants to have a very good balance between their private lives and their work lives. And lifestyle has become very important, and the companies cannot ignore, that they should help their workers and their employees to find the right balance of lifestyle. Then the environment, right? So people, and I guess this is especially at these times where people are working remotely, right? It has presented very big new challenges for us. And one thing is the difficulty to connect to others and to our co-workers in the company, right? So of course we can work and be productive, working remotely and IMing and calling, just working this way. But it's kind of, we still have to find a way to really connect with the people, right? And this is where the environment, your company environment, will play a very key role. So I think it's very important that we do our best in order to make the people feel connected to the company and to to his colleagues. And this is a very big challenge nowadays. Then development, of course, everyone wants to work in a place where they feel they are learning something, and they are getting better every day. So this is something that you should also have in mind, never forget. And then finally, purpose, which is something that looks almost philosophical, but the truth is everyone is always trying to find its purpose and the reasons why we are doing this. And I think you, as a founder or as a manager, you should help with your people, with your employees, to find this purpose in professional life as well. Well, that said, so how can you compete for talent? Well, for a startup or for a small company, small studio gaming company, you don't have the luxury to compete only on money, right? So you have to pay very good, and you pay very good salaries, but you should go all the way. So you have to think about the lifestyle, you have to think about the environment, you have to think about the purpose. So what is my suggestion for you guys? Well, first of all, you have a dream. Everything starts with a dream, right? That can translate into a vision, but you have a dream. So you have to build a story. You have to be able to tell your story to your people, so they can join you and they can believe in you and believe in your story. This is something absolutely fundamental. The second thing is you have your values, and this is a good point, because when you start something, so when you start a company, the company values in the beginning ultimately will be your values, right? It will be the founder's values, and sometimes they will, or somewhere they in the future they will morph into company values, because they will. No, new things will be added, new people will join, but fundamentally it's your values in the beginning. So start with your dream, tell your history, practice how to tell your history, and also reinforce your values. So what do you believe, how things should be, and what is important for you. So these two things will translate into leadership. And this is something that really people will expect, right, from any company. But be a strong leader and practice this from day one. And eventually, when you become a good leader, you also have people that start to share your values and your dream and your ambitions, right? And eventually that becomes your company culture, right? And this is where it doesn't mean that the leadership is less important. It's probably even more important, but somehow when you have a strong company culture, then what you had in the beginning, your dream and values are kind of permeated through all the company. And this will just build your solid foundations for a successful company, right? Okay, guys, so I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you very much. So just for the final remarks, never forget to have fun. We're all doing this, and we should have fun all the way through, especially working with what we do, right? Gaming. If you never worked with gaming, or if you just think, that working with gaming is always, a wonderful thing. Well, it's not always a wonderful thing. It's very hard work. It's a lot of competition. It's difficult, but it's very nice to work with games. Midway through, you as a founder, in the beginning, it's all about you, but then midway through, it's all about your team, and you have to work for your team. That's a conscious decision that you have to make as a founder. Get your player in the center of your decisions, okay? Fundamental. This is fundamental, especially when you're creating content. Build a company that lasts, okay? And this is very connected to creating a strong culture. And never forget why you're doing this, okay? So that said, thank you very much, guys.